Hey everyone, this is Mike, and I was about to just take care of this seat exchange in my 2006 T1N Sprinter, and I thought, you know what? Let me not be selfish. Let me just share this so that everyone can learn about something that, quite frankly, I think more people need to talk about because I couldn't find anything on replacing your seat with a suspension air ride seat in a Sprinter. Oddly enough, I've been talking to a lot of companies that sell seats for trucks, and it seems like the Sprinter community is this sort of underserved, marginalized community where they don't have many options for Sprinters, and I'm going to go through a little bit of why that is. First off, uh, truck seats are made for trucks. They're designed for a slim, group of manufacturers, either Volvo, Freightliner, International, Peterbilt, and so the list goes on. But truckers buy seats that are made for truckers. But I want a truck seat in my Sprinter. So now you run into a whole host of problems when you try to do something creative like that. So I have to actually, this is one of the creative challenges that takes place. I have to actually build a bracket that accommodates the seat that I got, which is a Bostrom T910, all right, 910. And the seat is a pretty basic seat. So the seat is a pretty basic seat. I have this up right now because I'm actually installing the armrest in this area right here, which the seat, it comes without the armrest, and you have a choice of whether you want to install it on this side and this side. Since it's the driver's side that I'm getting the chair for, I want to put the armrest on the right side. And also the suspension has about, this is 80 pounds here. So the suspension has about 4 inches of travel. All right, and I'm getting this because I need the extra support for my back. So as you can see on the Sprinter, the bolts from side to side are 15 inches. This is definitely not 15 inches. So I'm going to have to build a bracket. And so that's why I have to go through this process. And one thing, if you're going to be putting a suspension seat, an air ride seat in your Sprinter, that you have to consider is that you have to get a low profile seat, because it has to be able to fit the space between the base, the Sprinter pedestal, and the steering wheel. Okay, so now it brings us back to why we're here. What is going on here? How did we get here? This is a Allen screw, but you could also use a T40 Torx to get this out. I used both. The T40 Torx, because you're gonna have to get in this space right here. So a ratchet, only if you have an extension, you'd be able to get through this part right here. But you just swivel it like so. Take these 2 bolts out, then use the chair to get to 4 remaining screws. You have 1 screw here, another here, and 2 more. 1 on this side and 1 over there, and 1 right here. And in case you're wondering how I got this off, I learned it from Florida, Van. There's actually this lever right here. It frees the seat. So all you do is this slides on. You come up under here and you pull this little lever this way, All right, and then when you do that, you're able to slide your seat forward, and then it releases. So that's how you get rid of that, and then you can access all of your circuit breaker, your ECMT, you know, transmission control unit, all of that good stuff. Or you could get to the bolts and get a better viewpoint to actually remove the seat. So now, the only thing left to do is to remove both sides of the seat belt. And this is a number 17 millimeter. Where are we? Okay. That loosened pretty easily. And now this part right here on the new seat, there are two arms that have receiving holes for these parts of the seat belt. So that's already accommodated on the new seat. So now I'll just retain this. Okay, this side is free now. See, this part is free. Now I just have to remove this side. Okay. And I think it's the same size bolt as well. Yep. Now this falls right off, and we'll just leave it here and take the chair out. So now the chair is completely free. Okay, and that means we can move this to the side. Now this wire, you have to put this wire to the side to make sure nothing happens to it, and that's the wire that activates until the seat belt is clicked. You'll get a warning telling you the seat belt is not activated. So that's what that line is for. Okay, so now I'm just going to slide it out, and then the next thing to do would be to get the bolt pattern so I could start working on the plate. So here's what I did. I two manila folders put together, taped to the base, right? And you know, you leave a couple of, you know, a bit of space so that you can see. And the piece that was actually covering the seat belt bolt on this side, that was covering this bolt right here, if you still have it, or any type of you know, staining material, you can pop it off and just use it to rub, and it will show the depression of where the screw holes are. Okay, so you have one. Remember, there are 6. 1, 2, 3, and I took my pen to highlight that just in case, you know, it just dissolves or whatever. 1, 2, 3. So there you have 6 bolts. And to explain to you why I'm doing this, it's two-part. I don't know if anyone has realized this, or maybe mine is just, it's specific to mine. Okay, but my Sprinter seat, the left side of the seat was sort of worn down. So instead of sitting straight up like this, the seat was tilting like that, you know, a bit of runoff to the right side. So what happened was I realized I was having a bit of back pain in my left side. My left side, you know, the muscles would always be sore. And I realized it's because I was trying to keep myself straight when the seat wanted me to have this type of an orientation, you know, 5 degrees to the left, the right. And so my back would the whole day be straining to keep me upright, and that would be the muscles on the left side because I'm trying to contract and straighten myself on this side. So I realized I had to first straighten out the chair, but also when I looked at the center line of the chair to the steering wheel, the center line of the chair from the steering wheel, and I don't know if this is just my Sprinter or if this is a design attribute of all Sprinters, but it was 2 inches to the right of this center emblem, which, you know, represents the center line of the steering wheel. So the center line of my seat would actually be over here. So I would be sitting here and reaching both arms, right arm and left arm, over 2 inches to the right in order to drive. And so when you think about how many miles you drive throughout the year, that can really add up in a way that if you're not paying attention to it, it can surprise you, and you can have all these weird pains shooting from your foot up to, you know, your back or mid-back. And it's because your body is trying to compensate for asymmetry. So it's important that when I install this, that I don't install it to the center line of this, when I install this new seat, that I don't install it to the center line of this base per se, but I ensure that my seat is set up so that I can be centered with the steering wheel. And wherever that lands on this, well, so be it, because I need a proper, I need to be completely centered with my steering wheel. Okay? And so I don't know if anyone can see right now, but, well, we'll see. So now, like I said, I'm just going to highlight the circles so that we can maintain the imprint regardless of what happens. Okay, so those are the 6 holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I was doing a little you know, analyzing, and I believe something was wrong with that seat because everything does line up in terms of where the center should be. And you know, it's not easy to get a line straight and hold that line while you're trying to measure, but you know, this center bolt right here for the circuit breaker under the dry steering wheel is a great way to drop a plumb line and see where the center is and work it out. And it was basically along this center line right here, so we're good. And it is equidistant between these 2 bolts, so I feel good about that. So now we're going to take this this pattern and match it up to our seat so that we can see where the plate should be. Okay, so we're going to take this pattern and match it up to the base of our chair to see what kind of adapter or adjustment needs to be made. So yeah, I forgot to mention the other features Now, as I said, this is where the seatbelt bolt will go into, and this is the backrest tilt and recline. What do you call that? The recline knob, and there was a little stop on this side. But I removed it, and once you remove the stop, you can recline as far back as you need to. And as I said, I'm installing the armrest right here. So I had to remove the knob to turn this. This is the back lumbar support spring right here. So there's a spring that comes out to support my back. And that's really what I did this for. And as I was doing research, you know, I came across an interesting article that said if you're a professional driver, you need to treat your seat as a replaceable, wearable part in your vehicle. And I'm telling you, that blew my mind because, and the article said as much as well. It basically read me top to bottom, and, you know, basically sung the whole it basically told everything that I was going through, because I hadn't considered what condition the seat was in. I just bought the vehicle from a guy. The truck was reliable. I spent most of the time getting things mechanically sound, and because of that, I didn't think about the condition that the chair was in, but yet I was using it every single day, and it was wearing out my back because, you know, I'm at a 5-degree angle to the right, you know, tilted to the right, and my back is just trying and straining all day to stay a complete 0 vertical, complete 90 degrees vertical, while my seat is forcing me 5 degrees to the right. So, you know, my back is just straining every single minute I'm in the seat. So the article said that you should treat this seat as you would an alternator or a starter or any other part that goes bad in your vehicle, because after a while these cushions, you know, they begin to deflate, and they don't have as much spring or pop in them as they used to, and it will affect your back as they lose their resilience. So you have to treat your seat as a replaceable, wearable part. And, you know, going through this experience, I'm definitely going to make a habit of replacing vehicle seats, replacing the stock seats with air ride seats. Any vehicle I'm going to buy from this point on, I will replace the seats, and I will bracket them just to get the feel, the ride, and the comfort that I'm looking for as I'm driving all of these miles. And I hope you do the same. You know, your back is an important resource that you have, and, you know, we should take care of it and keep it in as good condition and posture, giving it the amount of support that is needed so that, you know, you can continue to live your life in good health. All right, so we'll just keep this video going along, and I'll catch you in the next section. So now I'm just going to grind down the edges, but I just want to remind everyone, wear your protective gear. I have my protective goggles on, so whenever you're using an angle grinder, you know, use your protective gear. I also have a mask on for the metal shavings. As you can see here, the stuff does fly into the air, and so you want to also protect your lungs. this. I'm dropping the whole thing. Okay. I'm just doing this. Freeze machines. You know, just send it to whatever they want me. So I'm sure that you don't want to. Okay, in an effort to spare you the boring stuff, I got the seat into the vehicle and I mounted it on a piece of plywood because you know, rather than going by theoretical measurements and calculations, there's nothing like actually sitting in it, testing it out, and seeing where you want it to be. Now, the cool thing about this chair is it has a raise and lower feature for the angle of the foot thigh rest, I guess. And this is obviously the up and down inflation bag. So when you trigger this, it opens a valve that lets compressed air into the what do you call this, the inflatable bag. It's suspension, and it raises and lowers the chair. So if you press it down, it releases the air, the pressure in it. And so this is another consideration. If you're trying to put one of these chairs inside of a Sprinter, you have to find a way to supply air. So what I've been doing was supplying air with a charger pack that has a compressor on it. You just hook up the compressor to this part, the standard compressor that folds over a tire adapter, and just you have to hold it down because there's nothing to grip to. This is, I believe this is 5/30 seconds size air hose, and you push it, you turn it on and let the compressed air enter into the system while holding down this switch, pushing it up, so that it will open the valve that will let that air in. If you don't hold this switch up, then it will think that the air coming in is just air from a holding tank, like a 125 psi 2-gallon, 5-gallon tank. It's air that's just ready to force in, but unless you press this in, it won't let that air in. So you have to hold this in as well as supply that air through this line. And I figured, you know, grassroots, I'm not a complicated person. I could even create an adapter to use a hand pump, you know, a hand pump and or a bicycle pump if I don't want to get fancy. And or even I see on Amazon they have a foot pedal that you can press up. So I could have the foot pedal and put it away when I don't need it, and then when I do, just press it up with my foot and then put it back. I'm never, once I get the good setting, I'm never really going to play around with releasing air, so I won't need that much of a supply. This is my first time using suspension air ride seats, so it all depends on how much air gets lost over time. That's another consideration. So I sat in it. As a matter of fact, I can sit in it again. Yeah, that's the, there you go. That's what happens when it goes over a bump. And it also has, see, this is pretty cool. And I'm gonna go through the features too. It also has front and rear suspension, so that if, as you're taking off, you don't feel the full shock wave of it taking off or slowing down. There's a bit of an easing there. So I can't wait to try this thing on the highway, So also, the way you can lock it in place, if you don't like that front or rear sliding to absorb the acceleration or deceleration, you can lock it in place so it doesn't move and it's just up and down motion. Okay, and also this is how you slide it forward. Now this has a decent amount of sliding forward and backwards, and so I can demonstrate. Okay. So that's the full range of motion. It's just hard to do with one hand, but okay. Well, you get the point. In sitting, I realized that things are indeed. So now I'm cutting the plates that I got 4-foot pieces of steel, and I'm gonna cut 3 16-inch plates with the bolts to bolt in 15 inches across to the Sprinter base. And I realized that I didn't need to get the second one in there, like $30, so you know it really hurts. But I guess I'll find some project around the house to use it for. So I have one more cut, and I guess you know you could join me for this. Gonna get pretty loud though. All right, so from my pattern, I marked these are the 2 front bolts of the Sprinter pedestal. These are the bolts for the seat, the seat base. Okay, so this is the pedestal of the Sprinter, and this is for the chair. So this pedestal bolt to the other pedestal bolt in the front, this is the front and this is the rear, is 15 inches. So that 15 inches corresponds to these lines that I drew. Okay, so as you can see, they correspond to these lines. So now I will just find the center point of these beams and then cross them to drill a hole. Okay. Okay, so they're both in. The only thing left to do is mark out these holes. And then we have ourselves a working base. So I take my trusted Sharpie and simply mark the hole. And because these are already in place right here, oh well, I guess that was important to do. Figure out where exactly I want this to be. Possibly sit in one more time, make sure I'm centered. Make sure I'm centered. Okay. Oh, wow. Guess what? I'm still feeling off center, and the reason why is because I turned it the opposite way. This huge gap is supposed to be over here. So I need to turn this around so that this tiny gap can be over here so that I can be centered right here. So let me try that. All right, so we drilled our holes. Now let's see if it'll actually work. Let me put it, let's see if that will be a good view for us to see what's going on, a bird's eye view, if you will. Okay. We'd have this situated, that bolt in, like that, and then we'd have this, like this. Second bolt. Okay, and then this would bolt onto this one right here, like so. Haha! We're in. So it'd just be fastening these two bolts, these four, and then we're on to the back bolts to match this pattern right here. So this is good. I can prep this for paint and paint it and let it dry. So we're gonna work on this part now. So now, due to the fact that I got a 4-foot slab of steel, right, 4 foot, and each of these pieces are actually 16, which is 48 divided by 3, 48 inches being 4 feet. So I decided, since there are 6 holes, 3 on each side, rather than just having it bolt down in the 4 spaces that the seat has and just leaving it at that, we could have the extra support down here, so that especially where I'm sitting and where my torso is vertically coming down, there can be some added support. And this is actually where the bulk of the weight of the chair is. This part is fairly easy to lift up. This part is hard to lift up. So why not put that extra support here? So we have 2 beams going across this side, and this bolts into this one. So I will use this to hold the seat off of this cardboard so it doesn't puncture back here. So I give it some support while I take this out and cut the final 2 holes, and then I can start bolting things down and we can wrap this job up. In sitting on the seat, I realized things are a bit off center, because the optimal seating space, as I felt it in the seat, for me, the optimal place for me to have the seat would be these bolts in line with this bolt, right? So that means the chair would have to be up here and 3 inches away from the actual hole. So this hole would be right here. And now when I sit in the chair, it being in this position, it's a prime a prime seating arrangement for me, because now I'm right in front of the steering wheel. Okay, now if it were centered between, this is where I would be, and this is the problem I was experiencing. You see, where I am is about 3 inches away. This is the center line of the seat right here, and that was the issue. So now I realize, in order for me to be centered with the steering wheel, and therefore to have my body be symmetrically placed so that driving isn't a chore, I have to be 3 inches away from the actual bolt on this side. Now, I don't know how far off that is from the other side. So we have 15 inches between the bolts, right? So 15 inches between the bolts. So that's 5 inches, because the other bolt would be about 10. You see that 10 right there? 10 inches. The other bolts would be by the 10. The other bolts would be by. So as you can see, I created the holes, drilled the holes that the bolts, the original bolts that go into the Sprinter pedestal goes into. So this will tie down into the Sprinter pedestal right here. Now we'll just have to make the 2 holes to receive the chair. So so it would be 3 inches away, and then we have 15 inches between. So it would be 2.5 inches off center if I align it with the center of this. So now aligning it with the center of the steering wheel and the center line of my body being in the center, aligned with the center of the steering wheel, then that brings it 2.5 inches this way off center with the pedestal. And I'm telling you, this is something, now don't get me wrong, I love these vehicles, but that's something that every Sprinter owner needs to check out and look at. Because if you're driving in a non-symmetrical way over many tens, 50,000s of miles, it will have an effect on you. So, you know, the placement of your seat should be taken, you know, you should take some thought into where you put your seat, because if you're going to be driving the seat for many miles, it will affect you. It will affect you. So now I'm going to transpose these holes onto our pattern, and then, you know, work out what kind of brackets we can use to accommodate the different holes. What can we do to you know, extend the holes so that they fit together, and then go to the hardware store and see what I can come up with. It's gonna get pretty loud though. You're probably wondering, why am I going back and forth? Well, when you go back and forth, it kind of straightens out any any rough edges that you may have started with. So rather than trying to force it through and go slowly, when you score it, this is by the way, a thick piece of metal. So when you score it, it kind of notches and grooves you into a straight line. So don't force it, just go with it. And so the thing to note is that I wasn't applying pressure. I was just letting the weight of the saw cut through, and whatever it gripped on, that's what it will cut off. Okay, let's see how good we did. Do they line up? That one does. Does this one line up? It does, it does. And look at that. It's in there really good. So now all we have to do is figure out where these bolts will go on this bracket right here. Ah, it's coming together. So we've got our 2 marks for the bracket. Let's see, right there and there. Only thing left to do now is drill it. Come on. Okay. So now in drilling the holes, I had to adjust because I actually broke my step drill bit right here. So I don't know if you could see that. The tip is broken. I had to start out with a small drill bit, taking my time as a pilot hole, and then go to the step drill. So this is the process right here. Okay, so we have the second part. Well, I have it cut. The hole is created. Let's see if they line up. Okay, that looks like it lines up, but will it receive this? No? Did it catch? Huh. Oh, wow. Okay, this one screws in there. Let's see about this one. Now let's paint them. Give them a chance to dry.
Upon the Cagayan Islands. Hope to play together.
I'm so stoked that I get to play with Horace. I want to go through that game.
In half a mile, use the right lane to take the Southern State Parkway.
All right, so here we go. I finally got everything installed. Got all 6 bolts. Got all 6 bolts set. Right, 6 bolts there, and the 4 that bolt into the base of the seat. So now the beautiful thing about this adapter is this, that any Sprinter base that matches with this, and I have a second Sprinter, and so if I wanted to sell this Sprinter, I could put the original seat back in and sell it that way and transfer this seat to my other Sprinter. So, and it's right there. It's bolted in. When I unbolt these bolts, the 6 bolts around, this stays bolted to the seat. So it's basically everything comes up. Now, I will tell you that because this is not a truck, you will have to have a creative solution for supplying air. My solution is a 12-volt compressor, and I got this little fitting from this set. Picked it up at Lowe's. It's called the Cobalt inflation kit, and there's about 5 pieces in there, and I didn't really need these. I actually can use it on some other items, so I guess I'll figure out how to put these to good use. But what I really needed was this fitting right here that would allow a tire inflator to fit over this thing snug, tight, holding the pressure, you know, making sure the pressure doesn't bleed out, because this fitting would be too small for a standard tire inflator adapter. So for example, like this, I can put this over, and you see that holds, and that's what you want. So any 12 volts adapter that can fit over a piece like this that you can get from the kit that I just showed you will work. What I'm proposing or thinking to do is get a what do you call that, the bulb inflator, so that I can have the bulb sticking right here. So if I do need to inflate, I could just 7 pumps, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and then that'll, you know, help lift the seat up. And once I get going, I don't usually vary the height, so I don't bleed the air out that much. So I don't really need a whole system to be built with a tank inside this vehicle, which would take up space and extra weight. I don't need that. I just need something that can pass air into the system. And speaking of the air, this is the piston, or I forgot what they call it. This is what holds the air and holds the suspension. Now, for my taste, when I put the seat all the way up, and by the way, this is the Bostrom T910. When I put the seat all the way up, the inflation is stiff, and the inflation is stiff, and it doesn't really allow for much travel up and down during the normal course of driving. The seat just stays topped out most of the time. I don't necessarily like that because you don't get the feeling of the cushion unless you're going over some really heavy terrain. So what I do, or what I like to do, is go down to the actual height of my Sprinter seat, the one that I took out. The problem with that is the range, or the stiffness is released. So along with the fact that you bounce more, you have the greater potential of bottoming out at mid-sized bumps, or mid-sized to extreme bumps. So if you fill it all the way up, you wouldn't feel any bottoming out, no matter how heavy or extreme the bumps are. But where I like it to be is about 50% fill. Now that will give you up and down motion for most of the driving, and it'll be like a soft ride, a cushioned ride. However, the 20 to 10% of the time that you're driving that you hit an extreme bump, it's going to bottom out, and you'll actually feel it bottom out. So that's something to consider. When it's fully inflated, for my taste, the seat is too high. So that's another thing that goes into the decision making as to the final height and inflation. So there you have it, folks. So if you're looking to put a air ride suspension seat, preferably a low ride suspension seat, into a 2006, 2003 to 2006 Sprinter and a T1N Sprinter, and you just want the brackets to properly lay it without wondering if it'll fit or if it'll work, I'm able to build it and ship it throughout the United States. So just check out, I don't know if I'm going to put a link or contact information, a way for you to get in touch with me, just in case you would like to do this. Again, I'm sharing this video because I haven't found anything like this on the internet. Someone that would go from start to finish explaining how to install an air ride seat in a Sprinter. I've seen swivel seat, and I don't want a swivel seat because I just want to drive forward, if you know what I mean. But an air ride suspension seat, now that's something that interests me. And also, I put this styrofoam here so that just in case the frame touches this third piece that is not actually bolted in, you won't hear a clicking or ticking sound. So this seat is supported by this base and that base, and of course, like I said, this is where most of my vertical torso will be, so that extra support comes in handy. All right, until next time, thank you all for staying with me and going through this journey, this adventure, and figuring out how to make this work. See you in the next video.